Hey everyone, this is Melissa. I'm so excited to be back with you. It is 10 days until Christmas. 10 days. Okay, so we are going to paint a beautiful Christmas festive home. We're going to pull all the elements we've been using all month long, and I'm adding in snowmen and wreaths and trees with ornaments. Plus, we're going to do a very special add-on at the end where I take white craft paint and sprinkle it over the whole painting to make it look like it is snowing. I just wanted to break out in song when I was making this. So let's grab our supplies and let's get going. Hello everyone, welcome to this December edition of this creative season. We are going to be creating a really fun Christmas home. In fact, I'm going to show you one of the finished pieces. Isn't this cute? I really love this. This has been one I've been doing in some workshops. We did a larger one in a live workshop, but today I have taken basically I've been using this pad of paper. It's from Hobby Lobby, 9x12 inch watercolor paper, and I just cut it right in half. So we have a 9x6 inch piece right here. I've got my colors and my paint. I've got a sketch pencil. So let's get going really quick and just do a very quick sketch of this really fun Christmas home. And my goal really was to get a sense of Christmas and coziness and home and really a lot of the feelings that we love that are associated with Christmas, and get those in a really fun painting that we could create in less than an hour. And that because we have to let it dry, right? So probably painting time and details time is probably not going to be more than about 30-ish minutes is what I'm guessing today. So I'm going to do this nice little English home. This was inspired, I was watching a BBC something or other. I think it was BBC. It was an English themed movie. And I saw this darling home and I thought, I love that style. I had simplified it a bit so that we could create it without too much of, complications, right? All the angles and whatnot. Plus, one thing I am adding is I'm adding a lot of windows because I love windows, love lots of natural light coming in. I notice a lot of those older, at least from the movies or the TV shows, there's not a lot of windows in the older homes, and that for American homes too. In the States, it's always interesting whether I'm in an apartment, I'm in someone's home. It seems like the more modern homes that were built in the last couple decades, many more windows, right, than used to be. Now, if you want to grab a ruler too, and you want to just kind of take a ruler, and that way we get our bottom, at least everything's coming down to the same point. I will say, because we're going to be creating a sense of snow, we're not so concerned about getting the bottom of the house. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and erase my bottom, and this is why too. We will end up painting down, but we're going to let the snow kind of be coming up. Okay, so we've got our main house here, which is great. I'm going to go ahead here. Make sure you get some nice mountains in the back. We want to have that sense of lovely mountains behind us. And if you want your house kind of sticking up above the mountains, you certainly can. Kind of look at that there. I'm going to have this house. I'm going to have the rooftop sticking up just a little bit more, I think. That way it's going to give me a little bit more room to also make my window. So again, just kind of play with that sketch. Use your eraser to erase what you don't want. Remember too, I usually like to keep my sketching a little bit light. That way the watercolor doesn't show through the sketch, right? Okay, so there we go. So now I've got my hills in the back, which I really like. We have some that are bigger than others, which is what we want too, right? We don't want it to be even in the back. So again, sketch and erase as needed. Now I'm going to look at my elements. I want to make sure that I have enough room over here. I'm going to have a little tree. I am going to have a snowman. I'm going to have my little door mat here. We're going to have a snowman here, and so I'm going to sketch in my snowman to make sure that I don't end up painting the whole thing brown. And when I create my little snow guys, my snow people, what I usually think of is, those jelly cookies or the thumbprint cookies? I usually try to think of that I have like a little bit of an indentation here, and I kind of make them sitting on top of one another, if that makes sense. A lot of times I'll even erase that middle part out, and we'll end up creating a shadowing effect, which is going to show our snow people. You could even do a little snow family if you so desired. But I'm just going to put my little snow person right over here. I've got my tree. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to have some trees in the back here. I'm going to have probably 2 trees over there. I'll have one here and I'll have one there. I've got my house. I have the chimney. If you want to have more than one chimney, go right ahead and adding in another chimney. I'm going to have a wreath right here in the middle. Let me make sure I'm coming. Okay, good. You can see that. I am going to sketch in my wreath with a pen. In fact, I'm going to grab my micron pen right now, and I'm actually going to make my wreath with the micron pen so that I remember, don't paint green on the micron pen. So if you have a micron pen, or do this with your pencil, we'll end up coming back with our pens and going over it. I just want it to stand out a little bit more. All right, there's my wreath. I'm sorry, yeah, the wreath, well, the bow on the wreath. I'm gonna have the wreath coming out around it. Now we're gonna have a couple of windows. I want a big bay window right here with the Christmas tree inside of it. So this is gonna be one window here. And then what I'm gonna do is I wanted to have some windows in the middle, just right up here. And if you wanna make these windows longer, and I do not know what is squeaking. I think that might be my table. I apologize for that. I'm gonna have to tighten something up. So you can do your windows like this. You can certainly make your windows bigger. Over here, I am gonna make my windows a little bit taller. And moving right around there. Okay, now what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna also have a window. I love this. I wonder if it might be. I wonder if it's, let's see if that knocks out the little squeaking. Nope, that wasn't, it wasn't that. So apologies if you're hearing that squeaking in the back. I will have to play with my table and get it all tightened up. All right, so I've got a cute little window right here, and you can see it's almost, in fact, I'm gonna actually shorten it so it doesn't look like it's coming off the ledge. So I've got this window here, and I'm going to put this 4 window panes inside, just like that. All right, so I look at my sketch. Do I have everything that I want? I don't have a mailbox. I did want a mailbox, so I think I am going to add my mailbox, and I'm going to put my mailbox, let's see, I'm going to put it right here. Again, feel free to add what you want or not, right? If you don't want a mailbox, do not add one in. You can add something else. You could even add a little snow family if you wanted to. But just, this is your sweet little home that we're creating. Okay, so I think we have our basic sketch down. We just need enough of a sketch so that we know where our color blocking is going to be, right? So now that we have that, I'm going to go ahead, I've got my water over here, I've got my paint palette, so I'm going to start laying down color. We're going to start laying down the blue up top. We're going to have a lot of white because this is snow, and we're going to do something really fun at the end where I create a sense of snow and with some craft paint. So that is going to be a lot of fun. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to start taking some water, and I'm going to grab my blue, and I have a phthalo blue on my palette. I also have, so I've got phthalo blue up here in the corner. I have an ultramarine blue down here. This is a cerulean. You can feel free to mix these, to use one. You do not need all of them. I have really been enjoying the phthalo blue because, as you can see, I'm going to get a little bit more wet. It is a cool blue, and I really, really, really like that cool blue. So I'm going to be laying it down here. Now, I'm not going to put like stars, for example, in the sky. You certainly could, because it's going to end up being a snowy painting. I'm going to go ahead and let it just be a dark sky, and it's kind of a bright blue sky, and I'm doing that intentionally. What you can do as well, if you have a different color blue, is you could always just lay the darker blue in here, and that's going to create some variation in your sky, which I think looks really nice too. But remember too, we like to use the same colors and then move them around the palette, around the page, with so we really get a sense of harmony throughout the entire painting. So I am moving around, and you can see I got the edge of my house right there. I'm not too bothered by that. What I'll end up doing is I'm just gonna kind of cut the top of my house off, so then that way it's even. And so we're just gonna keep on moving here. I'm gonna go deep over here using that edge of my paintbrush to get into some of the crevices, and then we're just gonna leave that alone. Now what I've been doing with this particular one is painting then part of the house blue as well. So now one thing you can do if you want to, is if you could, I was going to leave some areas for some lights just in here, as if the house had twinkle lights. A row of twinkle lights. You do not need to do this. This is just an extra. If you want to do this, we just want to be cognizant so that we don't paint a solid blue. So now what happens is I'm going to go ahead now and be very careful about moving my blue over here, right? And this has been, I've been using this palette quite a bit this year, and sometimes that's really nice to take a season and use similar colors and to play with them and to do some different things with them. I've also been incorporating a lot of the same complementary colors of reds, right, the festive reds. Today I might end up putting a little bit of a different color scheme into it, just so you have you can see what it looks like to create with some other, sometimes some more non-traditional colors, we might say. So again, I'm not totally concerned about getting the blue really even on the bottom, because it will end up getting covered with snow. And I'm going to just come up here, and I'm just moving in between these lights. And coming down here, there we go. I'm going to come down close to the door on the sides, down here. Again, not worried about being too even, but I'm coming down pretty low. The next thing I'm going to do is just to come up around the window here. My cute little window. That's the Peekaboo Window is what I call it. And using the end of my brush to create those nice edges and just moving it around. And so that way we will end up putting yellow in the window, so it'll look like there's light. There's somebody in there. We're creating that sense of that cozy family indoors. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do too is I'm going to just, on my mailbox, I'm going to make this a blue mailbox and just lay down that blue paint, not feeling the need to paint it all in. Okay, there we go. So that looks really nice. Let's grab our greens. So I'm going to grab a green, and I have a permanent green on my palette. I think I had some Hooker's green too, medium, so we might have a little bit darker. And I am going to start moving around, like for example the wreath. I am going to go ahead and very lightly put my Evergreen Wreath together here. You'll notice with the wreath, what I normally do is I just making sure my brush is just going the same direction, creating those sense of wreaths. The evergreens, I'm just making small motions, and I can actually bring this in a little bit closer so you can see that there. You can see I'm not doing a lot of detail. I am moving in, again, the same direction and creating that circle. I'm going to let it dry before we add our color. And that looks really good. We don't need to color it all in. We want to leave some white there, and we're going to definitely add in some other colors. I'm going to come back out now, and that way we can start going and painting some of our trees. So moving around, we have the tree up on this side. I'm going to leave quite a bit of white because it's going to have snow on it. In fact, what you might want to do is think about, it's like a dress almost, or you know, the on a bed, those fancy beds where you have that bottom, what's it called, the bottom bedspread peeking out that you put underneath the mattress. Almost think about that. We have these almost peekaboo evergreen layers, because on top of each one is going to be a layer of snow. And I'm going to come and do some extra layering over here. Excellent. Now in the back, what I do want to do is I want to create that sense of, you know, distance. So I'm going to make some little trees back here. And back here on this mountain, really far away, a really tiny tree. And another one. And then over here, you can do as many or as few as you want. So we're going to continue there and just continue it on over here. And back here and just continuing on. Now when you get back up to the trees up front, we're going to make those a little bit bolder. Okay, so then I'm going to come through, and if any time you think, you know, maybe that tree's a little bit big, what you can do is put in, you can either blot it, or I would suggest maybe just making a smaller tree next to it, just to show we've got a really big tree out there and we've got a small tree. After all, they are all different sizes. So there we go. Okay, now coming back over here, I'm just working this down, and once again, thinking to myself, there's going to be snow on there, so I'm going to do a little bit of a blanket effect over here. And that one's a little bit watery. That's okay. I'm going to pick up some more paint, and then this one is going to be a little bit more in the front. So I am going to let those branches come out over a little bit more. And I haven't added any blue to this green, but I'm going to do that next. So now that I've got that going, I'm going to go ahead, add some blue to your green. Whatever blue you've been using, add a bit of blue to it. Now if you find that your blue is too, or your green is too blue, just add some more green. But mix it up in your palette, add a little bit more water, and then let's go ahead back and let's just go ahead and add some layers. Add in just a little bit of a darker color. And I'm just moving through fairly fast and just maybe a little bit in the back, adding in some color to my wreath, just kind of almost dropping the color in. That way our wreaths are, even the wreath is multi-dimensional here, we're just wanting to make it pop a bit. And then coming out here, and if you want to add in some more branches, pick up some more paint, and you can see too where you could almost just dab in the color. You don't even have to do a lot of brush strokes if you want to add to it, so you can move it around just like that. And that looks really, isn't that nice? I think that looks really, really lovely. Now what I do want to do is let's go ahead, our tree inside. Now as you start to paint that tree inside, keep in mind that we're going to want to put some ornaments on this tree. So leave lots of white space, because the green has a tendency, it's hard to paint over it. We'll just say that. So I am just carefully adding in my branches there. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to make some branches intentionally kind of sticking out here that I can add an ornament to. There we go. Okay, so now that we have all of that done, let's go back and add some other details here. First of all, I want you to grab some brown. Grab some brown, and then let's go ahead and just lightly just start moving it around the house. We're going to do the roof over here. I'm just doing it nice and light. If your blue is still wet, let's not get it too close to that blue, because we don't want it to bleed. If it bleeds, not a big deal. We'll either grab a dry brush and kind of sop up the excess, or we will grab a paper towel, and that works too. I'm using that tip of my brush. I'm really using that tip in order to get around the edges, and then get down here a little bit, and that lets me avoid the other areas as well that I don't want to get. All right, and I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to go ahead and just move very carefully around the wreath. I'm going around my windows. And let's be cognizant too, as we move around our snowman down here, that we don't accidentally get him all brown. We don't want to do that. I'm going to just move around. We didn't add any blue to the snowman yet because I didn't want him to bleed into to the house, because that would just be really sad, right? Now, if you wanted to have, I'm not having a hat on my snowman. He's going to be pretty traditional, but if you do have a hat on your snowman, make sure to leave room for that. And again, I'm just moving around here. I'm going to add just a little bit of brown between my bow. Oh, see how I'm got a little bit of a bleed there. Not a big deal. What I'll do too is I'm going to grab a paintbrush, and I'm just going to sop that up just like that. Okay. I'm going to go ahead, and you know, if you do get a little bit of a blurry, that's okay too. We're going to come back in with the pen. We'll clean all that up again. Remember, there's very few things that are completely a mess. We can fix just about anything in these sweet little homes. All right, even my house, when I went over it with the sky, see, we are able to fix all that, so don't be alarmed. Okay, moving very carefully. Now, if you might want to tap your house just to make sure it's dry. That way, if I accidentally touch it, it's not going to be problematic. Now, you can kind of look, and if you can get a little bit more brown, and then just come back over right under your windows. And we're just going to add a quick bit of darker color. That because of the shadowing, right? There's always going to be, it's going to be darker where we can see shadows. And I like to add that in. We've got some shadowing here underneath our chimney. Great. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and pick up the red. And this is too where if you want to be a little bit less traditional, so I'm going to actually do a little bit of pink. Now I might come back and do red. I've been using a lot of red, and I thought I might just want a little bit more pink, and I'm probably going to add, I'll probably end up putting red back in, but just have a little bit softer color. I'm going to add pink on the door and on the chimney. You can see that just has a different feel. And then actually my bow, and I'm hoping I'm not going to make a mess here. There we go, letting it just kind of move. I'm just very carefully moving that paint in. Okay, now I'm going to bring that closer so that you can start to see it. Now I'm going to then take a little bit of red, just a little bit of that cadmium, and I've got it pretty watered down. But then I'm going to come back over here, and I'm just gonna add a little bit, so that way it's not so red. It's been really red in some of the paintings I've been doing. It's a little bit softer, and yep, that bled in a little bit. I'm not too bothered by that though. I'm just going to grab a paintbrush, and we're just going to soak that excess color right out. And it's all going to dry anyways, and that will be great. Okay, now I'm going to come down here with my color. I'm going to do a little bit of that red doormat. That's really cute. And you know what? I actually think in one of my other paintings I had done the brown door, but you know what? We're just going for that pop of color, aren't we? We are. We're going to go for the red door. And I do have a lot of paint on there, and I can tell how wet that is. So I am going to grab a paper towel. You could let it dry, that would be fine, but I am just going to blot it just like that. And then I'll end up painting, coming back and painting on it a little bit more. Okay, so now that I'm backing up here, let's go ahead. I'm going to add, if you want to grab a smaller paintbrush, this is where with some of that detail work, we're going to do a little bit right now. I'm going to pick up, I've mixed my red and my pink together, and I'm going to come through in my right over here. I'm going to add just a few ornaments here, right over here. And then I think I want to add some ornaments over here on this tree, because why not? Why not? We're going to add some ornaments over here. So that's really cute. And the green, now remember too, green and pink or green and red, either one of them, they all make brown when they get mixed too much together. So just be careful about that. And you can see I'm not even coloring them all the way in. I really like that. Let's go ahead also, I'm going to grab yellow. So grab some yellow, and it doesn't matter what yellow. You have a cadmium, a gamboge, a lemon yellow. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to very carefully in the middle add in my color, my light. Now I am going to come back in around the Christmas tree too, but not quite yet because that's still a bit wet. I'm going to put some in these guys too, just a little bit. I'm also going to come back with some light blue. When light blue, it's just more watery, and I'm going to go ahead and move down my mountains and any sort of shadowing underneath my trees. We're going to add that right now. We're just moving these up. I bled out a little bit there. See that? That's okay. I'm going to come back over here. I can tell I set my hand right under the tree. That's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and make it a snowy slope right here. get a little bit more blue and, you know, create a little bit of sense of shadowing if you'd like. I'm going to put that right over here underneath my mailbox as well. It does look a little bit messy, and that's okay because all of this will get cleaned up. Now I'm going to add little shadows with the blue on my snowman. So I'm not putting color around the whole thing. I'm only putting color in certain areas, and then I'll put, for example, like right down here. And then we're going to actually leave that because I'll use the micron pen to finish out some of the details of his eyes, and then also putting in the arms. Okay, so as I'm looking around, I'm really ready to go ahead and give this and stop this so that we can let it dry. And we have a lot of color. It's so, so cute. We definitely want to add our details. We're going to do that in just a few minutes. So let it completely dry and then come on back. We've been painting for about 25 minutes. We'll probably end up spending about 10 minutes adding some details and then finally putting on the splatter of white paint. It's going to be so fun and darling. Okay, I'll see you in just a little bit. Hey everyone, okay, so we're back. So everything is nice and dry now, and I'm going to start putting in that detail work. So I'm going to just do this fairly quickly, and feel free to watch me or do it with me. What I normally do, if you've been with me before, I really like to go through and see where have things gotten a little bit messy, where do we need to just clean them up a bit, add a little bit more definition, where do I want to add some detail that I didn't do with the watercolor. So like for example, I'm going to come over to the chimney here, I'm going to come down and I'm just going to add in some of those bricks. You can see too, I'll even come a little bit further where my pink and that red got into the roof. You can see it bleed in. So we're going to take care of that here. But what I'm going to do too is I'm just going to go ahead and just create some tiles. And that is someone outside. Let me just close. I was kind of airing everything out. Let me close the door. All right, so you can see now as we move through here and I just start coming around, I'm going to go in my windows here and I'm going to add in, you know what, I may not even add all 4 sides, but just some of the sides. I come through here like that. Now, one of the things we want to do is remember when we were adding the lights. So if you wanted to add Christmas lights, that string of lights, this is a really good time to come through here and I'm going to make the edges of those lights and the little bulbs, the big bulbs. And then when we come through is I'm going to come through and I will just add in the wash of yellow. And you'll see too, the blue got in there, but that's okay. We're just doing really, think too, when you're creating these watercolors, our brains tend to fill in what we want to see or what we know is there. So if I get some blue, I'm not too worried about that. I know my brain is going to fill, we're going to know that's a string of lights. Out here, I need to actually expand my brown a bit. And I'll come up here and just again, the edges of the buildings, I kind of went into the blue a bit. So I'm just going to make it a little bit thicker. And you can do that too. And you can see, I just keep moving around. You can see too where it bled a bit, where I'm just going to create an area here, really add that definition to my bow, and then what I'll do is I'll come back in and we'll add a pop of red. Now it's important when with the micron pen that I can add a micron pen to the wreath, of course, but once I add wet paint, I can't do micron pen over until it dries again. So for example, if you want to add in another layer of micron pen later for more details, feel free to do that, but just make sure everything is nice and dry. So you can see once again, I'm going through my windows. Now I want to do something a little bit fancy with these windows, and I'm going to just back off a little bit here so you can see this. And so for these guys down here, for my fancier windows, I want to add a little bit of window pane and just like this. And you can do any style of window you want. And this is really that opportunity. If you want to add that fun detail work, you can. And over here, even with these, if we wanted to do that over here, or you can leave them blank, it is completely up to you. Now, around this window with the tree, I am going to also do the same thing. And in fact, I am going to, oh, I forgot to put a little tree trunk here. We'll do a little bit of definition here. I'm going to go just on some of these ornaments, like almost a half circle to show them. You usually can't see the whole ornament anyways, right? Because it is partially hidden by the tree. But you know what I'm also going to do too is I am going to right over the Christmas tree, the beautiful window panes. I really love those houses that have those gorgeous window panes. It also really makes it look like the tree is behind it. And then we're going to add in the yellow here. So again, continuing to move around my little snowman. Now we could do this with paint, but I got to tell you, sometimes it gets a little bit messy. So I am just going to go ahead and put his little buttons on, and I'm going to put an arm coming out from one side, and I do put it inside the snowman, and then on the other side we'll have it just hanging out over here, and there's this other cute little arm there. And then I've got the bottom of the snowman, again just doing some, not even doing, we don't want to do all the way around because that will look, it'll make it look flat, so you just do part of the sketching. And then again with the tree, if you want to or not, just depending on how much of a watercolory look you really like. I forgot to put the post on my mailbox, so we'll do that now. And I'll add in some brown. This is the time too, I'm going to put my little doorknob. If you want to have whatever kind of door you want, if you want to put a fancy window in there, you can certainly do that. And I've got my little mat here, and I'm going to put some little stubbly things in my mat to show that it's one of those where you can dry your feet off real good. And again, just move around the picture, whatever you want to add as far as detail goes. If you want to add some yellow bulbs to your tree, you could even, for example, I can even add in the bulbs with the pen, and then I can paint them in. And that is a lot of fun too. And remember, we're going to add some snow after this dries one more time. The reason I don't put the snow directly on top of the watercolor is that the paint will blur, and then it will blend in, and it will look like a smear instead of snow, which is not what we want, right? All right, I'm just adding some definition to these trees back here. And if you want to put stems on them, you certainly may, or trunks, I should say, not stems. All right, I'm going to come over here in the back. Just again adding some detail, not outlining, but just doing nice sketches. And over against the trees where maybe it's sloping down, or we want to add a little bit of shadowing, we can certainly do that. Over here by the mailbox. Okay, so this is good. So that's a good amount of sketching that I've done. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab my paint. I'm going to back it up just a little bit. And so let's start too with some water. Some water, but some yellow. I'm going to get my yellow nice and wet, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back behind this Christmas tree, and we're just going to make it pop all around. And I'm going to do another bit of yellow over the yellow that I already had. Again, that just gives that, I really want that warm glow coming through. And then I'm going to come through too, get some more paint. And I am going to go right over here and put some yellow bulbs on this tree. And there's a few more. And then my lights on the house. I'm just quickly going down. Very, very nice. All right, now I'm also going to pick up some brown and add in a little bit of brown. First, I forgot to add some brown. This is my mailbox. So just a little bit of brown there. I don't even need to paint the whole thing in. Where I'm thinking there's some shadowing too going on. Around my wreath perhaps a little bit. I'm not going to be adding too much green, so I'll just put a little bit of the brown up here where my house, I needed to just extend it a bit. Keeping this pretty loose. You know what I didn't do? I'm actually going to grab my micron pen real quick, and if you haven't gone down, I really meant to put a little bit of line, just of delineation right here, just showing where there is a bit of a separation there, right? There we go. Okay, and if you wanted to actually add in a few roof tiles, just doing some light sketches like that, and then we'll go ahead and add the brown right over around underneath. And you saw too where that pink red had blurred in. I'm just going to add in some brown over here, moving it around, not everywhere, but just some places. Maybe around the snowman a little bit where there might be some shadowing on the roof. If you think too, oh, it's a little bit too bold, just grab some water and just add it in. That is really, I love this warm brown. It really gives a really nice sense of warmth to the painting. Now, I had forgotten to add my brown to my stems of my trees too. So I am going to put over, even like right here, we're going to pretend that we can see some of the trunks And that is one more way too we can add in the brown. I'm also going to add a little bit of brown too on his arms here and those twiggy branches. You know what? We didn't add a scarf. I forgot to add a scarf. You certainly could. And in fact, if I wanted to grab a really tiny brush, let's see if I can do that without, where's my itty bitty brush? I have, there it is. There's my brush. Okay, grab the tiniest brush you have. And if you want to even grab a micron pen and maybe add in, just draw in a little scarf here. And I am gonna pretend that it's, did I get brown there? Not too much, okay. So we're gonna just maybe do a little scarf right here, and I'm gonna put a little fringe. This could be a mistake. You just never know. So I'm gonna grab some of that red and add it to the pink so I have a little bit of a softer color. I'm gonna just put it around his neck. There, it's bundled up here, and then we're just gonna, that's cute. Added just a little bit of color to our snow friend here. There we go. All right, so just a little bit of red because it is a cold day and even our snowman is getting cold. I'm gonna just continue on with my real small brush, and I'm gonna go ahead here over, and where the blue had come into my door, there's some shadows anyways, but just adding in a little bit of color. And if you wanted to use red, you know, use that bold red. This is a cadmium. I'll use a straight cadmium for the doormat, and you can see that is really, it's a nice bold red. I'll add some more up to my door here, my nice bold door. And again, if you ever thought that's a bit too much, you can first of all grab some water and just move it around, and that kind of decreases the intensity. I'm gonna grab a little bit more color and add just a little bit more pop to my chimney. And then my bow on the wreath, I feel like it just got a little bit washed out with the green and the brown. So let's go ahead and add a bit more red right there. Okay, the other place I want to add a little bit more red is right, my ornaments right over here in my Christmas tree. Oop, and be careful that they don't blend into the yellow. That does happen. If you see over here too, these ornaments, you're thinking, I just want a little bit more of a pop. Add a bit more pop. That's fantastic. Now we're gonna lastly do the green, but before we do the green, let's be really cautious of where we've added red so that we don't end up making brown. I'm gonna take my green, I'm gonna come over here, and I'm just gonna add a little bit more green to my trees up here, where I just want to add just a hint more. I want to put a little bit more of the tree in the window, but just a little bit, and I want to be careful that I don't get into the yellow or into the red. So just a little bit up here as well. In this wreath, I just a tad bit more of green, but not a lot. Up here, we'll just put a touch. And again, a touch here. Now, I am about finished up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry, but just for a couple of minutes, because I want it just a hint wet. I don't want it wet because it will blur, but I don't want it super dry because we want the white paint, especially like on my blue areas, to actually blend just a little bit. And we're going to actually do some really fun shadowing just a little bit with the white paint. And I think you're going to love this. So I am going to go get my white paint. And so what I'm using is I'm using this Craft Smart paint. It's, you know, $1, $9, $69, something like that. Now, just take a little bit and mix it up really good with some water. And I'm gonna go do that real quick, and then I'll come back and show you. Okay, we're back. So I have that craft paint. I usually will grab like a yogurt container, the lid that I've saved, but I think I threw them out or I've used them. So I just grabbed a paper plate. I am just going to squirt some white paint on there. That's probably too much, but that's okay. I'll use it for a couple things. Now, grab some water. You don't want to use the same water you've been mixing though with your watercolors. Or if you do, just don't mix your watercolors anymore. The reason being is that we never want to mix acrylic paint and watercolor paint. The brushes, it will ruin the watercolor brushes. So just be cognizant. I have this white paintbrush I just really use solely for what I'm doing right now, with just some white splattering. So I have basically I'm just adding water until I really want it to a pretty loose consistency. I want it pretty wet like that. Okay, and my painting is getting dry. It may not be quite dry enough, but I want to show you. I want to show it to you while it's nice and fresh. Now what is dry is like the sky, because that's usually when I really mess up, is if I've left the sky wet, and then I start putting paint on. So I'm going to show you what I do. I have put saran wrap actually on my camera because you probably can guess. I have gotten paint on my lens before. So you can see I'm just going to start tapping. And if you think, you know what, nothing's happening, add more water. You do want it fairly loose because we are just going to start tapping everywhere. And we're going to create the sense of it is snowing out here. And I just really love this. Now, again, the smaller the paintbrush, the smaller the splatter. So for example, if I have used this, if you watch some of my splatter art videos, if I use this side on this small of painting, we're gonna get paint splotches. We don't want splotches. We really do want this to look like snow. Now I'll show you one thing right now. So you see on my door, the white paint hits that. Because that door is still wet, you can see almost that sense of it is blurring a bit. You do want to avoid that. So I'm glad I wanted to make sure that you can kind of see what happens when we get that. So let me scoot this back just a bit. So, and it's not the end of the world if it happens, but that's what it's going to look like. You may love that look, and then, just go ahead and, go for it. But just so you know, if you just let it dry for a couple more minutes, you're going to see it more, not get that splotch. Now, I'm going to go ahead, the saran wrap wants to come off. So I'm going to take out the saran wrap. I'm going to show you now too, over here on the trees. So you may not be able to see the white paint terribly well, but this is what I can do now that I have that white acrylic paint. I'm going to go ahead and I am just going to start really lightly smoothing it out over my trees. So you can start to see how we are creating. I'm going to be careful because I don't want pink, so I'm going to kind of leave this tree alone. But the tree that's all white, and then over here too, not even a lot, but just like around the stem. And isn't that fun? And it really looks like, oh, the tree is hidden with the paint. If you feel like your snowman, you have like too much color showing, just give them a little bit of white paint. And then I'm gonna go over like where my mailbox is, and it is a bit wet, but that's okay because I can pull that blue and it looks like a snowdrift. Isn't that fun? Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me back that up so you can actually see that. See that snowdrift that I created right there? Same with the underneath my snowman. So now let's go ahead and go up to the house, and I am really going to do some very soft, just a snowdrift, as if it has just snowed and we have snow up against the house. I'm going to come right up here next to underneath the big window, and again making it kind of just look like, how fun is that, right? And so again in the back, I might over here, if you feel like, gosh, there's just a little bit too much blue, not a problem. Just move it around. If I got a little bit of blue up here, not a problem at all. Now too, I might think to myself, okay, this is cute. I really like this. And maybe I just want to do a few more splatters. So then just go ahead. You can always cover up. For example, if this was wet, you could cover it up with another piece of paper and then go ahead and splatter some more. I'm going to just do just a few. I'm going to go ahead and remember down here where I had accidentally smudged some things. Well, there it goes. That just disappeared. Isn't that? I think this is just a lot of fun, and it's another great way. You're not going to ruin your paintings. So fun. And if you may even feel like you want to add a little bit of blue in here and then play with the paint a little bit more, feel free to do that. Oh, I'm knocking stuff. Okay, let me put this saran wrap on one more time. Okay, perfect. I'm going to back it off here because I'm going to do just one more layer of tapping here, and just to get it even on my roof a little bit. Again, I'm just going to add some water. We're going to just tap, 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 and I'm going to see if that saran wrap, nope, it doesn't want to stay on anymore. We're going to just tap close so I don't knock anything. It gets splatters on my camera. And again, once more, right over my trees, nice and close, pretty hard, so I get a good amount of splattering. Up here in my sky, if you think to yourself, my sky doesn't look like there's snow, just come up nice and close and hit that paintbrush nice and hard. Okay, lovely. This is so cute and so fun. I'm going to let it completely dry. I may come back and put just a little bit of micron paint in the chimney, for example, maybe over my door. It is super cute though, you guys. Isn't this darling? I think I want to start breakout and let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. All right, this was a fabulously fun project. I'll show my final picture at the beginning in the cover shoot. So I hope you guys have had fun. Let me know if you love this and if we should do some more of these winter homes in January, more of a winter style without the Christmas aspect to them. And I would certainly love to put those together for you. I will see you guys soon.